Hey guys, coming up Saturday, December 8th, I will be at Lagan Music School with Night Bob and Rich Neeson, moderating a panel called Peeking Behind the Curtain, Rock and Roll Life on the Road. You're not going to want to miss it. Doors open at 7:30 p.m. Showtime is 8 p.m. Bring your own beer and snacks. It's going to be a hell of a night. Check out lagandmusic.org for more information.
Hey everyone, this is Rebecca Wilson.
This is Chris Reitzman.
What's happening, roadies? This is Gil Craig, and you're listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. What's happening, roadies? Welcome to the show. How are you? This is your host, Larry Milburn, coming at you from a barn in Northwest Connecticut. Yes, it is cold, but we are here. We are all together, my friends. Check it out. This is episode 109. Today's guest is Gil Craig, audio engineer and sound designer out of Wellington, New Zealand. We will get to her in just a moment. But first, how are you guys? Are you doing well? I hope so. I hope for my California peeps, man. Oh, boy, you are getting the double whammy. First, you're getting a shooting. Then you get some wildfires that are just burning you down. And I hope for all my California brethren and sistren, I hope you're safe and I hope you're well. As I do hope for all of you out there, whether you're on the road, in the studio, in a van, wherever you are, subway car, whatever you're doing, man. Listen, thank you guys for your response to my little be safe out there post a couple of days ago after the tragic shooting in Thousand Oaks. I just needed a little bit of time to vent and get some thoughts out and share some love. And so just wanted to give that to you. Just wanted to do that. Listen, I'm sorry that this episode got away from me last week. It was supposed to come out last week, and I've been under the gun with an editing deadline, a couple of different outside projects, let's say, and just got those things done. But sometimes the week gets away from me, and that's it, man. You know, I even did a post teasing this episode, and then never followed through and just went down the editing rabbit hole. But that project, one of those projects, was for the Woodstock Farm Sanctuary. As many of you know, talked about it before. I am a vegan. I'm not pushing that on anybody. You do what you got to do. You eat what you got to eat. But they just had their Thanks Living event, and I was working on a video that was to be shown at that event. So my family, we went up there for this big thing on Saturday, and it was awesome. It was a great time. It was freezing, and it's just cool to work on something and see it on the big screen. A lot of times you don't get a chance to do that these days unless you're actually working in film. So that was awesome. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. Thank you for your service. If it weren't for people like you that were willing to lay down your lives for us, guys like me wouldn't be sitting here on the microphone with a beer listening to rock and roll music. You know what I'm saying? So thank you from all of us here. A couple little housekeeping things. It's come to my attention from a few listeners that the order of shows in your particular app or how you listen to this show has gotten a little screwed up. And I think what that is, because some of you seem to be Android users, it's come to my attention that you need to switch from Google Play over to Google Podcasts. That will be the better way for you to listen to the show, and hopefully that will take care of some organization stuff. I also, this is just getting deep in the minutia of it, but basically I've been hosting the show over at SoundCloud while still pushing things over to Libsyn, which is another hosting service. I finally just migrated everything over to Libsyn because, frankly, their whole system's a lot better. So the last couple of weeks may have seemed a little funky. I did notice a few episodes weren't getting updated over at iTunes and Spotify. So I think that's all straightened out now. But basically, you can still find us on SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, lots of good spots, and everything should be, updating is what I'm trying to say, man. Everything should be updating. So anyway, so that's what you got. So if you're on Google Play, and you're listening to the podcast, I would switch your app over to Google Podcasts. It's going to be a much better experience for you. Thank you for pointing out some of those issues. Well, what do we got? I don't know. Let's get to it. Let's just get to the episode. All right, here we go. Gil Craig. I caught up with Gil Craig at AES. This is the last of my episodes from the floor at AES. As I said, she is an audio engineer and sound designer for theater based in Wellington, New Zealand. And we had a very nice chat. She's also an avid photographer. She was in town not only for AES, but also for the photo show at the Javits Center the next week. And she's got a book coming out. She's got a lot of cool stuff. She has a lot of experience working as a monitor engineer for the Pink Floyd Experience, as well as the Wellington International Ukulele Orchestra, for which she is a front of house engineer. She's a sound girl. She's awesome. We had a great chat, and I'm looking forward to sharing this episode with you guys. So, no ads today. Not gonna throw any ads at you. I'm just gonna tell you that I love you. And as I said in the Be Safe episode last week, go out there, help somebody. That's the ad. All right, that's my promo for the week. Go help somebody, do something for someone that you wouldn't normally do, and make them happy, make yourself happy. And yeah, man, be safe out there. Anyway, you guys, thanks so much for listening. We're gonna get this show back on track. I've got some awesome stuff coming up for December and on into 2019. I can't believe 2019 is right around the corner. Holy Nike balls. I mean, it is coming, man. Anyway, we got some good stuff coming, and I'm very, very excited to share it with you. And I hope you're going to come along for the ride. Come on down for the ride. But in the meantime, here we go. We got Miss Gil Craig. Hit it.
Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
So, you've just flown in from New Zealand. We're here at AES. Super excited for a few days. And you're going to do double duty. You're going to do AES, right? And then you're going to stay in for a photography show.
Photo expo.
A photo expo. Well, let's start with AES, because that's, we're audio people, but we're both film people in some regard. So what's going on at AES? Why did you make the trip to come to AES?
I came last year and I really enjoyed it, and I just like to see what products are current, and I'm particularly keen on checking out.
For those of you listening, we're in a room at the cosmetics part of the convention, a whole other show. We've pirated one of their rooms, and some folks have come in, but that's okay. We're going to carry on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, focus.
Were you here? You came last year.
I came last year, yeah.
Were you here cruising around with Carrie?
Yep.
I think I met you. Briefly.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, I think you guys were coming down the escalator. It's like the one time I saw Carrie, and I think I met you, because now that I'm sitting across from you, really taking it in, I think I remember.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. So good. Okay, great. So you're here last year, so was I.
Yep, had a good time, and I wanted to come back and just sort of go to some seminars and check out new products as you do it, these kind of things.
Yeah. What new products are you excited to check out?
I'm really interested in checking out Clang.
Okay.
And that monitoring business they've got going on.
Yeah.
And I like to have another look at the Yamaha consoles.
Yeah.
The latest one.
Yeah.
PM7.
Yeah.
So they're sort of high on my list, and I can't think off the top of my head right now, and I'm going to go to the RF seminars as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Will those be the only seminars you do? I've not done any of the seminars at these things.
I'm still kind of deciding what I'd like to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna feel
Just
it
keeping it open.
Now, and then obviously seeing people that you know, hopefully.
Yep.
Right? Do you have friends lined up to hang out with at night?
Not yet.
Parties?
I'm not really a party person.
No?
No. No, I like to put my slippers on and drink a cup of cocoa.
Right.
And read my book.
Nice.
Yeah.
What are you reading these days?
What am I reading at the moment?
You had like a 19-hour flight here. Did you finish like 3 books?
I don't know, I watch lots of trash.
Did you? What'd you watch? What trash
I
did
watched
they have?
Bridesmaids,
Okay.
which I've watched several times.
Yeah.
I can't quite remember.
It was a long flight.
They were that memorable. Yeah.
19 hours. How long was
Yeah.
the flight here? From New Zealand. You're from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 13 hours from Auckland to Houston.
Oh,
and
that's
then
awful.
it's like 3.5 from Houston to
Yeah.
New York.
That's rough. But you're
Not
here for like
really.
2 weeks, yeah?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So how much time is between the AES show, which will end on Thursday, Friday, something like that, and then the photography expo?
It's about 4 days,
What
four
are
or
you
5
gonna do?
days. I'm going to go to photography galleries and go shopping.
Cool.
Go to the Air Museum just down the road here.
Yep.
And yeah,
You're gonna go to B&H and check out some camera
I've
gear?
been there already.
Already since you've been in town?
Yeah.
Did you get anything?
No, but I thought about it.
Yeah. What were
Yeah.
you looking at?
I was looking at printers, but
Okay.
they're a little bulky to get back to New Zealand, and there's
Yeah,
all
that's
sorts
tough.
of restrictions on what you can buy over here and bring back to New Zealand.
Right.
So I probably won't be buying another printer here.
Right.
But I might buy some paper.
How many times have you been to the States? A lot?
I've been 4 times.
Nice. You like coming?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I really like it here.
Yeah, I bet. I
Yeah.
bet. It's fun. So born and raised in New Zealand.
Yep,
And photography is your other passion and
Yeah.
your creative outlet.
yeah.
So what happens at the photography expo?
Again, it's sort of seminars.
Okay.
And talks.
Yeah.
And then it's a huge floor show as well.
Of gear?
Of gear and
Yeah.
people and other associated photography services like printing and bookmaking and
Interesting.
just all sorts of stuff.
That's so cool that happens like this every year for you
Yeah.
and you can knock out 2 things like that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Hard to get a job in the midst of this if you wanted to? Like if you wanted to mix something one night or do a one-off here and there. Is that hard to do just visa-wise?
Oh, like here,
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Can't do it.
Nah,
Yeah.
no, it'd have to be under the table.
Right.
I'm sure that's not allowed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cash jobs and
Right,
stuff.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'd kind of like to have a holiday and not do work.
That's a novel idea, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a nice idea.
All right, so tell me about growing up in New Zealand and how this whole audio thing came. Well, actually, what came first for you, the audio side or the photography outlet?
Kind of parallel, I think.
Cool.
So I was really into tape decks as a child.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to steal my brother's little Walkman
Yep.
and play with it. And then we also had like a ghetto blaster as well. And I used to do little multi-track recordings where you'd like record something on one machine and then you play it back and play along and capture it on the second machine, and then you'd do that X amount of times
Yep.
before it was sort of unusable.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. And then I sort of, I got my first camera as a, I think maybe I was 16 or 17. I got a film camera
Yeah.
and I started messing around with that. But it was just too expensive for me at that age
Sure.
to sort of really do much with it.
Yep.
But I remember thinking at the time with the camera, I just wish I could like instantly see the picture on the back of the camera.
Yeah.
And then I'd know whether I'd exposed it correctly.
Right.
Little knowing that that's what's happened.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I started in film also, taking
Yeah.
pictures in high school and whatnot. I get really into it because I love the darkroom.
Yeah.
And I liked having to wait, maybe
Delay
take
your
notes.
gratification, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, like maybe taking notes, on a photo assignment for class or something like that, taking notes of what settings I used
Yeah,
for all
I
these
used to do
shots,
that as
right?
well.
And then you get in there and you're like, oh, that was terrible.
Yeah,
Or that
that
worked.
sucked.
Right, that sucks.
Yeah.
Just burn that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. What do you like better? Or do you not? Do you like them equally? Is photography sort of your break and your release from the grind of doing audio?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like my creative outlet.
Yeah, another part of your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I sort of have a very small side business doing photographic printing, inkjet printing for people.
Oh, cool.
So that it doesn't make much income at all, but
Sure.
it's sort of a way. That's another sort of creative outlet as well, as making great prints
Right.
for people.
Prints that you've taken or people that
Other people's
send
work.
stuff to you
Yeah.
and you just
Yeah.
print it out for them.
And I've printed a few exhibitions for people as well.
Cool.
Because that in itself is a thing. It's like taking a body of work, looking at it as a whole, and then working out how you're going to print it, what paper, what size, getting a certain amount of consistency between the images.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you like? Oh, I'll give you my feeling on it first. I'll tell you. I like seeing photographs big, particularly portraits of people. Like
Yeah.
coming in and seeing something really large. Where someone's face is like almost half your size. I find really striking and cool.
Yeah.
Do you like big prints?
I do A2. My printing can go up to A2, and I have had thoughts about what it would be like having the next size up.
Yeah.
But then I also quite like the perverseness of making quite small images as well.
Uh-huh.
So one exhibition that I was in, I did really, really small ones, like A4s, squares like about that big.
Wow.
Yeah.
What
Just
do
of
you
landscapes.
like to, yeah, I was going to say, what do you generally like to photograph?
Not landscapes. That was one of the few landscape things I'd ever done. Tend to sort of, I'm the person who likes to get in a drain and go, oh, there's a weird sort of balled up thing of bits.
Yeah.
I think I'll take a photo of it.
Yeah.
The light's nice.
Yeah, right.
So I just photograph things.
Yeah, finding the uniqueness and personality of things.
Yeah, things. Yeah.
People, animals? Never?
No.
No, not drawn to that.
No.
Yeah. Have you brought your photography into the audio world in terms of, here's a cool shot of the back of an input rack?
I've done heaps of sort of series of photographs of PAs and things for our PA company.
Right.
So, and then done some kind of quite arty ones, and then we put them up on Facebook and Instagram and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And speaking of your company, it's Western Audio.
Yep.
That you own with your husband.
Yep.
And
another
a business
guy.
partner, another guy.
Yeah.
So tell me about Western Audio, what you guys do.
We do concert sound systems, ranging from arenas that are about 15,000 seater, and we can do sort of, I guess, a small compared to over here, like 30,000 seater arenas with support from, if we go in with another company.
Yeah.
And then we do touring in New Zealand, and we provide personnel for tours outside of New Zealand. And then we do a tiny bit of corporate work, a lot of kind of theatre concerts, theatre shows, a couple of festivals.
How large a company is it? Just the three of you,
There's
full-time?
3 of us, and then we have another full-time guy in Auckland, because we've got a very small branch in Auckland, kind of more of a twiglet, you could say.
Right.
And then we have a permanent part-time guy who does 3 to 4 days a week when it's quiet, and then more than that when it gets really busy. And then a small roster of contractors.
Yeah, freelancers.
Yeah.
And is this like a small to mid-size to larger? In terms of New Zealand, because I guess also what I wanted, what I wanted to dive in as I read, the stuff about you was balancing that. Owning a company, running a company, being entrepreneurial, also running it with your husband, how you guys balance that. So I'm just curious, is the size of this company?
Well, it's one of the bigger ones in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And there's sort of, I guess you'd say 4 main companies in New Zealand, of which we're one of them.
That's cool.
But I think we'd be comparable to like a mid-sized company in the States.
Yeah.
It's hard to know.
Right.
When you have companies like Clare Brothers and Eighth Day, which are massive.
Right.
Yeah. So whereas we'd have one GSL system, for example, and X amount of J boxes.
Yeah.
So Eighth Day has got hundreds of J boxes.
Right.
Talking DMB PA here.
Sure. How is it balancing? Because you do a lot of different parts. You wear a lot of different hats.
It's sort of the nature of
Western.
it. It's sort of the nature of it in a country like New Zealand, where you can't go, I'm only going to do this or that.
Right.
It's like sort of you can't really just expect that you're just going to be a monitor engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the company, in terms of running the company, like, do you get involved in the accounting also? Is that that's your part,
I do
right?
a bit of accounting stuff.
Everything.
Bit of the business planning.
Yeah.
And then sort of workshop stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that? What parts of that do you gravitate toward? Do you like, oh, I get to go up in a room now and just work on the accounting, or no, I just want to go tinker with gear?
I quite like all of it, actually.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The thing that I don't like so much is the unloading and loading of trucks.
Right.
Not super keen on that.
Yeah, no.
It's like, yeah. It's partly because I'm not.
Sweetie, another truck's coming in.
Yeah, it's sort of, it's the end of the night.
Right.
Truck. Sometimes the truck has to be unloaded.
Right, of course.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah. And what about balancing what does your husband do? What's his side of the business?
Well, he's kind of the head of the company.
Okay.
So he does systems design. He's also he's really brilliant at numbers and accounting and sort of that kind of deep financial analysis. So he does that stuff.
Wow.
And he's also a really, really amazing sound engineer himself.
Cool. Yep. So how do you guys balance a busy life, running this company, dividing and conquering those tasks within this small business or mid-sized, let's call it mid-sized business, mid-sized business, and then going off and doing audio on your own?
I don't know, I'm not sure. We just sort of...
You just do it?
We just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it take a while to sort of get to that point, or was there growing pains in the company?
Well, it's kind of one of those things where it started off really small and then it sort of just gradually kind of morphed and just grown quite organically, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you played in a couple of bands, right? Or a few bands.
Yep.
Horn.
E-flat tenor horn.
Right.
That's like the brass band. I think it's the equivalent of the alto horn that you have here.
Yep.
And I played bass guitar as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
And that's what led to a career in audio, ultimately, right?
Kind of.
Started mixing. You were doing studio stuff.
Yeah, I started in the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
That came about. How did it come about? Oh, no, as I mentioned, I started playing around with tape decks.
Yeah.
And then I ended up with a cassette 4-track. And then I was in a band, and that particular band bought like a 1/2-inch 8-track and a funny little, it was an Allen and Heath desk. It's like 12 channels and 8 buses. It's really strange. I think it was called a Quad 8.
Okay. Wait, what was your first, because I read the thing about your first 4-track. Do you remember your first 4-track?
It was a Fostex.
I had a Tascam.
Or maybe it was a Tascam. I can't remember.
Little cassette tape one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had a Tascam. I still have it. I've held on to it because I still have all the tapes, and I have this fantasy that one day I'm going to get it out and finally mix all those tapes down to 2 tracks so that I can listen to them. Because, you know, if you like put the tape in one side, you hear stuff that you recorded on the other side of the thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Funny. Anyway, okay, so you started with that thing.
Yep.
And then started doing it for some bands.
Yeah, so then I started doing demos for bands.
Yeah.
And then then what happened? Then I ended up with ADATs, dreadful things.
The dreaded ADATs.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Yep, it's the kind of thing where you had to own 3 to ensure that you had 2 that were going, because one was always off getting serviced.
Yep.
And then after that I ended up with a 24-track hard disk recorder, a Tascam MX2424,
Sure.
which is nice.
Yep.
And then it ended up with Pro Tools.
Right.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you were in studio stuff.
Yeah, so I started in the studio, and then at the sort of in parallel to that, I started doing a little bit of live sound, because it was a good way to make a bit of cash to prop up the studio thing.
Right.
And then I was like, hang on, I really like live sound, and I realised that over time I sort of was doing more live sound and less studio work.
By design.
Yeah.
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 Why did you like live sound more?
I
What
think
were you
it's-
gravitating?
I think it's the immediacy of it. It's kind of like, here's the band, sound check, mix, done,
Yeah.
rather than the agony that can sometimes happen in the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Endless hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I like the physical nature of it as well.
Getting out there, touring, seeing the world. You had, you said something in your Sound Girls profile that you sent me that I really liked in reference to what it's like being on the road and just like what you like about being on the road that I hadn't quite heard yet, but it makes sense. It's awesome. The blend of routine and novelty.
Yeah, yep.
You
It
know?
just suits my personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always the certainty of, we arrive here at this time, set up the stuff, sound check happens, show happens, done.
Yeah.
So, and if you're touring your own kit, it's sort of, you know everything,
Yeah.
and all going well, nothing's going to be broken.
Right.
Yeah. So I like that, but then you've got the variances of like the different venues, and it's like, how's this room going to behave? What's the stage going to be like for doing monitors on?
Sure.
Yeah, gosh, the stage is really small and we've got to squash a lot of stuff on.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember where I read this or what it was in several years ago, but there was something about touring, about artists touring. It wasn't so much about the crew at that time that I was reading this, but it was about artists and how just like being on the road so much. And every night's a different room or venue or whatever it is, and the one constant that they have is where their mic stand is, the rug underneath them and the amp and that world. And obviously it's the same for you guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like whether you're a guitar tech or drum tech or monitor person, whatever it is, like you can literally physically build your little world,
Yep.
To feel the same every night, and you put your little touches on your board, whether it's a flower or your Buddha or whatever, whatever you got, right? To set it up. It's like, okay, I'm home again. And I think that's the routine part of it. And like you said, the novelty is, wow, look at this. We're in a shed tonight and there's a beautiful sunset, as opposed to last night where it was rainy and cold or windy or whatever's going on, or inside.
Yeah.
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 That's cool. That's a cool way to look at it. I like that. I like that quote, the blend of routine and novelty. So you made this transition, but you didn't go to audio school, not that you have to learn about live sound. So how did you start picking it up? I mean, and what things could you take with you from the studio, knowledge could you take with you into a live situation that helped you?
Well, I learned on analog equipment, so obviously the thing of like signal flow, that's sort of a thing that translates from studio to live. And even these days, if you work entirely within the box, you've still got to have some understanding of signal flow.
Yep.
Although I'm not entirely sure that some people do.
Signal flow is a thing, right?
It's a big thing. Yeah. So
why did it confuse, or why do people miss it?
I think it's easier when you've got a desk and you've got some cables and you've got a compressor and a reverb, and you go, okay, I need to plug the stuff in, and it's the tactile thing of physically going, I'm plugging in this compressor into my inserts, now I'm plugging in this reverb, it's going to go out here and come back here, and so it really embeds it in your brain.
Right.
And then I think when you're working in the box environment, I think you miss that. Right.
You're just clicking buttons.
Or just kind of plopping a plug-in on a channel and not sort of thinking about, okay, and then you put another one and then another one. You're not sort of thinking about, okay, it's going through this one and coming out and going into there. So I think people don't quite get that sometimes.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's almost like guitar players with their signal flow through pedals, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of discussion of like, where should the distortion
go? Where should this go, and what's my order, and what's the gain staging on this one here, and is it going to be happy driving into this one here? Is this one here going to be happy having that driven into it, etc.?
Because there is, I mean, particularly on the audio side, there is a sort of defined and definite rule, right? Whereas like with pedals, maybe it's like, I like the flavor of this better. I don't care if the reverb or whatever is supposed to go at the end of the chain. Or is it a little, is it looser in audio?
I think it's quite loose.
It is.
I still think that it's always good to kind of be mindful of your levels and kind of get sensible levels into the first device in the chain, and then get the right level coming out. And so drive everything in their sweet spot. With the exception, like, sometimes it's kind of cool to overdrive a piece of equipment.
Sure.
But then knowing what's the knock-on effect of that is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that carried on really, obviously from the studio, the analog studio situation, into live sound. Yeah. Yeah.
The studio stuff were you doing, was it mainly single artist playing back to their track sort of a thing and sort of building layers? Or was it like, I've got 7 artists in here?
It's like band stuff.
It was band stuff. Okay, so you had a good foundation of dynamics. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so gain structure and signal flow. All those kind of basic audio things that you learn in the studio carry over into live sound, and then like how a compressor works. Obviously that's going to carry over into live, although the way that you use them live is potentially different to what you might be able to do in the studio.
Sure. So there wasn't that much of a learning curve for you, but there was an immediate attraction.
There is a learning curve in that it's a thing having a bunch of open microphones, some monitors, and some speakers.
Right.
Yeah. So that's sort of it's like easy enough to kind of go, oh yeah, I can get a lovely balance of this band here in the studio, and then you take that into a live environment and go, oh God, that guitar player is ridiculously loud for this tiny room.
Right.
Yeah, and then you sort of have to negotiate the physicality
Yeah.
a whole lot more.
You've done front of house and monitors.
Yeah.
What do you like better?
I think I like monitors best
Yeah.
because I kind of don't really like loud music that much. I don't like mixing loud things.
Uh-huh.
So the main act I did front of house for was a ukulele orchestra.
Right.
There's only so loud you can get with those,
Yep.
though they were amplified.
How many ukuleles are we talking about?
In that band, they'd have up to 12 players and up to 15 or 16 ukuleles on stage,
Whoa.
and then 10 singers.
All of those were DIs?
No, we used DPA. I used DPA microphones on the ukuleles.
Wow.
Yeah. So managing all those live microphones and extremely, surprisingly loud monitors for them was a bit of a thing.
I bet.
I'd say.
I bet, yeah. And vocals?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were
And
some
a
of the
double
challenges?
bass.
And a double bass.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenges there as well?
Well, it's that thing of having heaps of open microphones in quite a tight space on stage because they
Yep.
played in a semicircle with one microphone up the front for sort of soloists. So that was a challenge. And sort of managing like live microphones on ukuleles, which, whilst tiny, are kind of can be very highly resonant.
Sure.
So it's sort of, and then getting monitors that worked as well. So they liked, how many sets of monitors? 7 sets of monitors from front of house often,
Wow.
depending on where they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a thing.
Your husband, you guys have been together a long time. You've been married like
20 years?
20 years.
I think so, yeah.
He was also a musician?
Yep,
What does he play?
plays the bass.
2 bass players, 1 family.
Yep.
What, I don't know why that's a thing.
There's quite a few sound engineers who are bass players, I've discovered.
Are there?
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah,
I like playing the bass.
same.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. Do you have one? What do you got?
Well, I have my husband's basses. He's
Yep.
got a Wall fretless, which is delicious, and a Steinberger, which
Wow.
is like my favourite recording bass because it's just got the best tone and it's
Yeah.
phenomenally even across the fretboard.
Yeah.
And then I have a $800 cheapie semi-acoustic bass,
Uh-huh.
which I'm trying to remember the brand of it. It's like it's sort of an offshoot of Samick,
Right.
which has always been one of those guitar brands that people go, "Ooh."
Samick is great. I just learned about Samick. My brother-in-law's got a Samick Les Paul, basically.
Yeah.
That he's lent me. That is fantastic.
Yeah, this one was, I went around all the music stores in Wellington, tried out every bass, and this was the one that just sounded great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. So how did you guys meet?
He was mixing a band that I was in.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. And that was it.
There was a bit of took a little while.
Courtship.
You know, the usual.
Yeah. And did he already have Western Audio? Or did you guys all start it
no,
together?
he had already started it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
To
it's
pretty much service his own.
It was just
needs.
he just had a sort of a small amount of gear,
Yeah.
and then over time there's been more gear and more gear,
As
and
it
then more
happens.
people and more gear,
Yeah, it just
and
grows
then
and grows.
and then trucks.
You guys lived in your warehouse, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, what was that like?
It was kind of cool for about 9 years,
Yeah,
and then it was like, oh, it'd be really nice to not live in the warehouse
right,
by about the 10th year.
right. Was it
Yeah.
like a loft kind of a vibe, or no? It was just
Not that cool.
Really?
It was just a kind of a concrete floor, and then we did a fit out in it. Well, fit out's probably a bit generous. We kind of put in a kitchen sink and knocked up some walls, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was rough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you were young and in love,
Yeah, pretty much.
right? So it didn't matter.
It kind of doesn't matter.
Right, and
Yeah.
you're learning your thing, and
Yeah.
it's like you're growing. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And it was a really great way of saving a whole pile of money and being able to invest heavily back into the business.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's paid off,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
sounds like you guys are relatively busy
Yeah.
throughout the year.
Yep.
That's awesome. Does it work sort of like, are there ebbs and flows in New Zealand
Yeah.
with the business seasonally?
Yeah, there's different seasons. So
Yeah.
May, between May, June, July and August, one of those months might end up hypothetically being quite quiet.
Okay,
That seems to happen across all areas of the industry.
right.
But we've been pretty consistent this year. That's that's been.
That's
been
great.
Quite consistent.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How were they surviving without you for 2 weeks?
I don't really care right now because I'm on holiday.
I've got my hot cocoa and my book, and I don't care.
Yep.
That's awesome. So tell me, like family-wise, growing up, big family, small family?
I've got a brother and a sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your folks, was anyone else in your family musically inclined?
No.
No. And how did all of this go over as you were a young woman getting into this? Was it?
Well, I ended up getting my
doing?
first guitar from one of my aunties when I was 11, and I had like saved up $10, and I paid $10 for it.
Nice.
And it came, and she'd like bought it, tried it, put it away in a cupboard. So she's delighted for me to have it.
Yeah.
And so I started just teaching myself how to read music and how to play, and then I kind of organised myself some music lessons, and then told my mum that she would be taking me every Saturday into town because we lived in the country for my music class. And she was just like, all right. She was kind of surprised, helped me pay for my first music book, and that's how it started.
And as you started getting away from actually playing and getting more into doing live audio and touring and living in a warehouse and all that kind of stuff, was it just like, oh, that's what she's doing? It's great.
They don't quite understand what we
Still,
do.
they still don't get it.
Yeah, they still don't quite get it. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're accepting of it.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
might get
absolutely.
it, but they're accepting of it.
Yeah.
They're good. That's good, and they're proud of you for
Yeah.
going after this. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Good. So now tell me, you also do. Wait, you have a book? Do you have a book coming out? Photography book?
I know that's one of my projects for the upcoming year
Okay.
is making a book
Awesome.
of images
And
of mine.
what's the focus of the book?
I'm not quite sure yet because I've had one solo exhibition last year or the year before, and so I'd quite like to resolve that kind of work in the form of a book.
Yeah. Would this be your first book?
Yeah,
That's awesome. You
Yeah.
excited?
I think so. It's
Yeah.
a lot of work to kind of pull them together.
Yeah.
And then it's that whole thing about it'd be really awesome to have a publisher, but it's very, very, very hard if you're an unknown
Sure.
photographer to just sort of chance upon a publisher. Or I could self-publish it, or I could set up my own publishing company, which
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in doing as well. And then I could publish myself and my friends and other photographers that I like.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the photography is where you ultimately want to go down the road, or?
Possibly. It's hard to know because there's so many areas in audio which I'm deeply interested in.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of keeping it open.
Yeah.
And maybe I could do both.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't see why not.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd ever go back to doing studio stuff? Like if you're like, the road is back.
I've actually got one recording project coming up in January, which is an old client that I worked with like years and years ago who's popped up again doing things. So I'm actually doing a studio recording session with him, not in my studio because I'm not kitted out for doing full band stuff, and he needs a piano, a proper piano.
Yep.
So he's booked a studio, and I'm going to go in and engineer that and then mix it
That's very
and do
cool.
his vocals. So that'll be my first return to it after years and years. Apart from kind of little bits and pieces,
Yeah.
sort of vocals.
How
here and
long
there.
is the session? You do a couple of weeks? or
He's booked 3 days to do
3
rhythm.
days? Okay, and then you'll sit and mix.
Yeah. Oh, and then I'll work with him to overdub his vocals, and then we'll mix it. And he's
Nice.
booked like fantastic session musicians,
That's great.
and one of them's kind of like the musical director, and they've worked out the parts and written the charts and everything.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So just take me through the process of like, I mean, obviously you've worked with this person before, but let's say it's new, or let's say it's this person, they come to you, they want to have you bring them in the studio and record them. Tell me about pre-production and tell me about what that process looks like.
Well, in New Zealand, it's very much a sort of do-it-yourself kind of culture, I guess.
Okay.
So it's a rare treat if you do get to work with an actual producer, and I've done a few times in the past. But if I'm like doing pre-production, which I'm not on this one because he's got this musical director who's doing that, which I actually quite like, because I just have to sort of take care of the capture, and then I'll work with that musical director, and but ultimately he'll lead that process.
Yeah.
But
So in that case, is he sort of like the producer, or no?
yeah, I think
Okay.
the guy who's written the songs
Okay.
and booked the musicians and everything. He's
Yeah.
sort of head producer, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Would he
he'll-
have input on the sound?
No, that'll pretty much be left up to me.
Okay.
So he'll be concentrating more on the performances
Got it.
with the musical director.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah. Although if something sounds horrible to him, I'm sure he'll say,
Right.
yeah.
That's super cool. I
Yeah.
have to imagine. I totally get that being in the studio for umpteen hours a day and not seeing any daylight, it's got to get old. But I also can imagine that spending a lot of time on the road and then having a nice sort of break to go in and focus in the studio has got to be nice.
It is. Yeah,
Right.
I like the change.
Yeah.
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 Because I know for me, shooting versus editing, same sort of thing, right? If I'm just doing a lot of shooting for people for a while and I'm not editing, that could kind of run its course, and then it's nice to just dig in on something for 3 or 4 days
Yeah.
and get in the zone of editing and,
Yeah.
you know, wrap
Yeah.
your head around that, try to find the story.
Yeah.
Do you find a difference between working with artists in a live setting, and I mean interpersonally, working with artists live than you do in the studio? Is there a different sort of balance or approach with them?
Not really, because it's all about being open and just listening to people. So, and obviously the requirements are going to be different. So if I'm doing monitors for someone, obviously it's a whole different set of requirements.
Yeah.
But what people seem to really need is just to be heard, and that their concerns are considered and are valid, even if you potentially might think they're imagining things, or what they're saying is incomprehensible. And yeah, but that's what. So I think ultimately that's the key, is just listening to them and
Yep.
sort of considering and really sort of thinking, what are they really saying here?
Right.
Yeah, and that can be in the studio as well, where they might not be able to get in the zone and they might be uncomfortable in some way,
Yep.
but they can't articulate it. It might be that the light's too bright, they might need a drink of water,
Yep.
they might need a little break,
Yep.
and they might need to start working on another track. Yeah.
Yeah, how do you, that seems to be like a fine line and a tricky thing, right? It's like knowing when to push and when
Yeah.
to keep pushing, and knowing when to say, you know what, that thing you brought in yesterday, that was pretty cool. Let's try that real quick.
Yeah, yeah. That's sort of when you see those really gifted producers, they're those people who know, who can sort of sense that with people.
Yeah.
So I don't do that much production like that.
Right.
But I have noticed that often people will run a track and then, and I always have record going the whole time, because you never know when someone's going to pull something out of the bag.
Right.
They'll run the track, then they might run it again, then they might run it again. And sometimes in that sort of second pass or third pass, the kind of the vibe and the feel of it's kind of there. Mm-hmm. And then you might do it another 10, 20 times. And it's being able to sort of say to people, hey, go back and listen to the third take. And you're sort of knowing when you can kind of introduce the idea of that perhaps we've actually nailed the guts of this, and then go back and maybe fix things up.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting balance.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and when to sort of go, okay, we've ran you've played this through 20 times. It's getting worse.
Right.
So knowing
right.
how
We're going
to,
in the wrong direction.
yeah, it's in the going in the wrong direction. You're making more and more mistakes. The feel's gone, and it's being able to sort of tactfully say to someone, let's stop, let's have a break, let's go and review those early takes.
Yeah.
And often the client can be quite surprised and go, oh, it's actually kind of good.
Right.
So it's some of what you're doing is facilitating their creative process, but you're sort of gently guiding them into the right decisions as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas monitors and in live, you're really not at all in the driver's seat, right? You're in sort of a, well, I mean, you're there helping because they need your support to hear, but
Yeah.
they
You're just making it.
they better create the vibe.
Yeah, but
Right.
you can completely ruin their vibe
Yes.
by doing terrible monitors.
Yes, you can.
So
that's
there's
right.
to me there's like a greater responsibility, because you don't want to be that person that ruins an artist's night and therefore disappointing like 6,000 people in the crowd.
Yeah. Have you done
Yeah.
that?
trying to think, have I ruined? Done
Have
the
you
odd.
done that? Have you ever been fired?
No, not from monitors. Don't think I've been fired in the studio either. I mean, I've done like tremendous, the odd blast of feedback in the wedges.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not really. I'm trying to think, my terrible ones. Once when I was doing the ukulele orchestra, one of the women had a blue ukulele and she was wearing a blue dress, and I was at floor level and I couldn't see, because I'm quite short, I couldn't see the band because they were also at floor level. And it was the most horrendous sort of low mid-range feedback that just was like a ship's horn going off, and I just couldn't isolate it because it was just so loud and all the meters just went pinged all the way up. And then I eventually kind of tiptoed and saw that the woman with the blue ukulele, her ukulele had sort of spun around and was like pointing straight at a monitor. And it was one of those ones where you're just like frantically pulling everything down. That's kind of seared into my psyche.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Write that on that rabbit again, hopefully. Now
And
you
then-
have a little apple box you can stand on.
And then
back
like
there
a
now.
very kind man ran and got me something to stand on so I could sort of see over the crowd. That was pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that-
that'd be my worst one.
Right, that makes your stomach turn a little, huh?
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you just have like a whole room full of people just staring at you. So, but it's good. It keeps you humble.
Yeah, exactly. But you got out of it. You survived.
Yep, I found it in the end, and someone came up with a solution.
What is the key in those situations that you would say to other budding young sound engineers? When you get in the shit, here's what you should do. Or shouldn't do.
What would be my advice? Ideally, you prep yourself so you don't get in those kind of shitty situations. But then sometimes stuff happens.
Stuff happens. It's
And
live.
you just have to kind of keep a clear head and sort of start focusing on, okay, it's coming from this instrument here, it's likely to be that, that, or that, and then, mute channels.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just have to, it's just something I don't dwell on too much.
Yeah. Just keep
Yeah.
moving.
Just keep moving,
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going forward.
keep the faith.
Right.
Yeah, that's all going to be fine.
Listen, there's a few other things, but there's one other thing that popped up in your background that I read about that I just had to throw out there to you. One of your favorite films is one of my favorite films,
Which one's that?
The Right Stuff.
Oh, I love that movie.
Why do you like that movie?
I don't know, I just have a bit of a fascination with that whole era
Yeah.
and that whole thing.
Do you
Yeah.
know that I think it was yesterday or it could have been this morning? I get these weird email blasts from the History Channel every day that tell me whatever I have this date in history. I think it was either this morning at 6 in the morning when I got up, or it was yesterday. Can't remember. That Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier either today or yesterday. Did
yeah.
you know that?
I think I might have read that too.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I loved that movie growing up.
Yeah.
Loved
I've watched it several times.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah,
It's very cool.
Yep.
Very, very well done movie. Inspiring.
yep,
Okay, I just have to throw that out there.
yep. So you were not so much into Bridesmaids?
I wasn't so much into
Okay.
Bridesmaids. I mean, it's fun, it's cute, but I mean,
Yeah.
as a young boy, that was for me like, I went to space camp because of that movie. I wanted to be in the Air Force. I wanted to go. I
Awesome.
wanted to fly space shuttles, but bad eyesight and rock and
Yeah.
roll got in the way, and next thing you know, I'm doing a podcast at Javits Center. What do you want? What do you want from me? But I can still dream. We can
Yes.
still both dream.
Yeah.
That is very cool. What is your dream gig? Speaking of dreams, what's the gig you haven't done yet? What do you want to do? Who would you love to mix for?
I always thought it'd be cool to work with Daniel Lanois, but then I
Yeah.
have this thing where, because I just really love his work.
Sure.
But then I have this worry that that thing where you like someone's stuff so much that I'm afraid to meet them in person just in case they're a
He's
giant.
gonna be a dick.
Yeah,
I'll say it. You
totally.
don't have to. Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, well,
So
I
that's
guess you'd
sort of
say
one
a
of my-
wanker.
Yeah, I'd say a wanker.
A wanker.
Giant wanker.
Yeah.
Tosser.
A
Yeah.
tosser. I love tossers.
So that's
too,
what.
as they
So
go.
that would be my worry, is that thing of like,
Yeah.
like someone's work for so long, and then you meet
Sure.
them and go, oh, actually, you're just an asshole. So
Right.
Yeah.
That happens a lot,
I imagine, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so interesting though, but you'd want to work with him as a producer?
No,
Or he's an artist?
in the live sound context.
Oh, in live sound context?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Who else?
Who else do I like? It'd be quite cool to work with Roger Waters on that show of his, because one of the bands that I work with is a
The Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd Experience.
Yeah.
So it'd be amazing to sort of see how he does it compared to
Yeah.
how the guys that I work with do it.
Pink Floyd Experience is New Zealand based.
Yeah.
How is their show?
It's a fantastic show.
Is it pretty cool?
It's really, really good, and they're constantly striving to up the production values. So they're up for any improvements that we want to make in terms of sound, which is unusual. Usually people want to nibble things back so it's cheaper, whereas
Right.
they like us making things better, and they make a huge effort with the lighting and the video projection.
Yeah.
So it's
You
a
kind of
spectacular.
have to, right? I mean,
Yeah.
especially if you're going to come out and have the name the Pink Floyd Experience.
Yeah.
You
So
want
they're
to.
really, really, really good.
That's so cool. Do they
Yeah.
tour internationally?
They
they keep it
do
local?
Australia and New Zealand, and they've done some seasons in South Africa, and they're still kind of working on getting out of New Zealand and into other territories.
Is it hard for acts to break out of New Zealand?
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah. So that ukulele band that I worked with, they got picked up by an American agent who then toured them through, I guess it's like not quite a college circuit, but arts centres, performing centres.
Yep.
So venues that are sort of like 400 seaters through to 2,000 seaters.
Yep.
And so those theatres would then buy the act as part of like their season package.
Yep.
So they were just kind of lucky that they met that agent, basically.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
And I imagine it would take a lot for that to also carry someone like you in with them. Say, hey, she's with
Yeah.
us. Like,
Yeah.
that's the deal. And they're going to be like, no.
They were pretty insistent because that particular act,
Yeah.
it's it'd be really hard for if you didn't know what to do with
Yeah.
ukuleles.
So they took you?
Yeah.
Oh, they did? Oh, cool,
Yeah.
cool. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you have toured through the U.S.?
Yeah, twice
Got
with
it.
those guys.
Right. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So
must have
what
been
they
awesome.
would do is we'd pick up monitor people in the US because they couldn't afford to bring someone from New Zealand.
Right.
Which sort of, sometimes you get really great monitor people, and
Yeah.
other times it'll be just like, it's actually easier if I get up and tune these monitors myself.
So what you were doing front of house for them?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were doing monitors for them.
No, I worked with them for years and years, and so when I started off with them, it was like, I think 4 scenes of monitors from front of house, and then suddenly it was like they need 7 scenes. So I still do 7 scenes of monitors from front of house,
Wow.
which is quite full on.
Yeah.
But we
yeah.
had a pretty good routine, as you would after like
Sure.
8 years of
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. All right, Jilly, if I'm looking at a stack of resumes
Yep.
for people like you, what sets you apart?
That's a hard question.
I'm not here to fuck around. We came all the way to New York, man. Okay? What do you bring into the table?
Well, I just kind of focus and I get on with the job.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you're hired.
Excellent, thanks.
Done. You got
Cool.
it. Did you have mentors going through all this stuff?
Sort of informal mentors, you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do stuff to train folks under you, women under you? Do you
I've
kinda-
got sort of informal mentoring. So I've got a couple of women that I email.
Nice.
They email me and we sort of, so I do that. And through Sound Girls, when I've toured with the Pink Floyd Experience, I've had people come along and
Cool.
shadow me.
That's
as well.
awesome.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of young women in New Zealand who are starting to gravitate toward this? I don't know about a lot, but
a few.
you know.
It's still not that many.
Yeah.
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 And I'm not sure, I still don't quite understand why there's so few women
Yeah.
in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I think ultimately you've got to be quite strongly as sort of a self-starter. So I've noticed that I met a couple of women who'd been on like a course but hadn't been out and actually done any mixing because I was too afraid to do it. And you've sort of got to get over that. You've got to just push through the fear of it and just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that sets people apart from the people who think that they'd like to do it and the ones that actually end up doing it.
Yeah.
Because it is quite scary when you've never done it before
Yeah.
to mix a band in a club.
Absolutely.
Figure it out.
Right.
Try not to have too much feedback.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now that you've been out there and you have a career in this and you've met other working women professionals like Carrie and whatnot, are there women that you're like, oh man, she's fucking fantastic. I'd like to be able to do it like her. Is there anyone like that?
Probably Carrie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she's just got a really amazing work ethic.
Yeah.
And she knows her stuff and she takes no shit. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't overall in that environment, but you certainly can't with the type of band that she's with, right?
Yeah.
And not only just her band, because they're all solid dudes, but the bands that come in and the players that come in and out of that world.
Yeah.
When you're touring.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But she's just sort of really solid in her knowledge and her abilities.
Yeah.
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 And
She comes out of the Southern California punk scene, so she's forged in rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine if I was a musician and she was my monitor engineer, I'd be really confident.
Yeah.
I'd feel really good.
Right.
That thing when you can trust your monitor engineer, it's a big thing.
Yeah, totally.
And you know that you're just going to walk up and it's going to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can just give your all to the performance.
Right.
Without struggling.
Right.
Yeah.
Julie, this has been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
pleasure.
this.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to hook up here. I'll probably see you walking around tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Are you hooking up with any other folks tomorrow?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Yeah, haven't nailed
Haven't
myself
reached out.
down.
Right. You like to play it fast and loose here.
Pretty much.
You're on vacation.
Yeah. I wouldn't say fast and loose. I'd say just kind of chill.
Right. Just chill. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, enjoy your time. Have a phenomenal time at the Photography Expo.
I will.
That sounds
Yes.
super cool. Good luck with the book. Will you keep us posted on the book?
Yeah.
Send us a copy
I
at
will.
Roadie Free Radio.
Yeah.
And we'll promote the hell out of it.
That'll be awesome.
All
Great.
right, cool, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Gil Craig, thank you so much for taking that time with me while we were at AAS. I really appreciate it. Good luck with the photo book. Good luck in your live sound adventures. Guys, stay tuned next week. I've got Trace Davis from Voodoo Amps coming up on episode number 110. You can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify, all as Roadie Free Radio. Check out the website, roadiefreeradio.com. Send me a note because you know I want to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. And my friends, in the meantime, you all be safe out there. No roadies, no rock and roll.